I'll tell you a Steinbrenner story sometime when we're off camera.
George Steinbrenner?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Hey, so nothing disfavorable to him, but there was some stuff that that was never documented. Anyhow, we're 5 seconds. I started the stream, so we are live on the stream right now, and we're about 6 minutes from going live satellite radio. So, hey, how are those Gauls tactical mission made pants holding up, Rich?
They are holding up very well. It's been a couple of months now. We've washed them multiple times. Still have not faded, so it doesn't look like the old BDU styles where you'd wash them a couple times and you were ready for a new pair. You certainly couldn't go to work with them. But no, these are holding up very well.
So what I need for these nice Gauls tactical pants is it's the belt now. So I need a good tactical belt, and I had one, and I must have given it away. I had a pair of older pants, another manufacturer, not built as well, and so when I got rid of those, the belt went too. So that's what I'm working on now. They're getting a good solid belt, because if you're only as strong as your belt, right? Is only what holds your pants up. So if you're going to put a holster, if I'm having a range day and I'm wearing those things, I need a good solid belt, not a duty belt with keepers and stuff, but I need something substantial. So that when I do put a gun on my side and I've got a pancake holster or whatever on the side, and I'm going to be, drawing from the holster, I need it to stay, so.
You can't find a belt maker in the great state of Florida to make one out of python?
Oh, yeah, we have those. We have those. And
those
gator.
Things are like 300 feet long. You got to have a few belts there, right?
And alligator, yeah.
Knowing Chip, he'd use an actual python.
If that's what it takes.
Oh. So we met with Tampa Police on Friday, and I'm talking about the glove people, and we did a glove demonstration, and we had a room full of people, and believe it or not, there were a couple guys that did not get gloved. They were just too scared or nervous to do it, But yeah, these were like DT. The one guy had a position in the training unit, and he didn't do it. I was surprised because everybody else in the room did it until the SWAT dude walked in, and the SWAT guy walked in, and he wouldn't do it. SWAT, and which I had a problem with. I take where I come from, probably where you guys come from. I take offense to that because we should be, when you're a hut guy, which is what I call the SWAT guys, where you're a DT, defensive tactics instructor, you're the guy. We all fight over who gets to go first, right? So I was disappointed when you're in a room full of your peers. We had a black female lieutenant with 12 years, well, not 12. She got promoted with 12 years on, so she's got at least 12 years on, but she's young, and she did it without hesitation. I was so impressed with her. I went up and told her, because there was that one guy in the room that worked underneath her that wouldn't even do it, and she did it. Oh, that was impressive. So yeah, you got a couple of guys who wouldn't do it, but it was extremely effective. It put everybody down. Everybody complied, and they seemed to be quite surprised at how effective it was, the glove. So
where did they apply it to you? Just grabbed you by the shoulder and.
Good point, because when I had it done on that video, it was the wrist and the hand. Mm-hmm. So apparently, what I did not know is the lower you go, the closer to the fingers, the more intense the pain gets. So multiple places. So some of the guys, they demonstrated by grabbing on the forearm, and it wasn't as excruciating. It still dropped them, and they complied, but they weren't like yelling and like screaming, But there was one dude they grabbed on the hand and the fingers, and dude. His vocal cords lit up, and so it was interesting. They had one guy who's retired, but he's a trainer. He wanted to get in a prone position, and so they demonstrated how you get a guy in a prone position, face down for our audience, and their hands are under their body, and that's kind of dangerous because we had a story not long ago where a dude had a gun and he pulled the trigger, and he ended up shooting 2 people when he pulled the trigger. The bullet just went through a couple people, but. If you want to get their hands out, he showed you how to apply the glove on the ankle, whatever you got access to, in order to make them do. And let me tell you, immediately, hands out, behind the back, handcuff, one and done. It was amazing. So, yeah, they did multiple points, but really depending, I guess, when you get to the extremities, because it's just the superficial, the tissue, just underneath the tissues where the current goes. It doesn't go through the body. your nerves are closer to the top of the skin at where the fingers are at, I guess. So it's a little bit more sensitive. So yeah, actually, he said 4 times more sensitive. so,
Okay.
so yeah, it was pretty impressive. So everybody have a great weekend. I certainly did. I did my recent trip to St. Augustine and then to Big Creek, Dahlonega, Georgia, where I hit the Big Creek Distillery. That's where they make my favorite. It's called the small batch bourbon, and I make my best smoked old fashioned. It's a better pecan old fashioned, and you put a pecan brittle in it, not peanut brittle, but pecan brittle, and then you smoke it with pecan chips. Dude, I'm telling you, by far the best smoked bourbon I've ever had in my life. So yeah, I did do that over the weekend, and it was fantastic. Peanut brittle in it, and then when you're done with the drink, you got that peanut brittle soaked with the bourbon that you get to have. If you ever come over to my house, gentlemen, I will hook you up.
Well, that seems to be the in vogue thing now, right? Smoking the bourbons and.
It's a whole different experience because there's two, and I know we got 30 seconds, but there's 2 ways to do it. You can do for aromatic. You can just smoke the top of the drink and let it interact, and then you can also infuse it by shaking it, with the smoke in the drink, which I don't like. I'd much more have the aromatic, and it mixes with the drink. The more surface area you have, the more mix, the longer you let it sit. I like that better. I think it's a better experience, but don't get me started. I love to talk about this stuff. 5 seconds. We're going to satellite radio, gentlemen. Here we go. All right, guys, and welcome to Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com. My name is Chip DeBlock, and I'm your host, and we're a group of law enforcement professionals that talk about today's news and issues, but we do it from a law enforcement perspective. And let me introduce the crew, guys, if you don't mind waving for the video portion of our show. You may not recognize him because he's all dressed up today. Yeah, the other day he had a sweatshirt look like John Fetterman, but today he's got a shirt, coat, and tie on. It is Dr. Joel Schultz, retired police chief from across America, currently residing somewhere in Colorado. So thanks for being back on the show, Chief. We appreciate it. We also have former special agent in charge with the Secret Service, Rich Staropoli. Rich, thanks for being. I love the backdrop and on the video. So thanks, gentlemen, for being back on the show. And a shout out to our sponsors. Our title sponsor is still Galls at galls.com. Don't forget that radio code, guys. Write it down, memorize it. Radio 15 in order to get 15% off your next purchase at galls.com. We also have complianttechnologies.com, our satellite sponsor. And yes, we've been on satellite radio since May the 5th, Cinco de Mayo last year. And we have gunlearn.com, Medicare.live, safeguardrecruiting.com, our streaming sponsor. And yes, thanks to them, we're streaming to over 1 million followers right now during the live show. And if you need help with getting people to sign up for your agency and you want to recruit the right way without having to do all these financial incentives, safeguardrecruiting.com. They've got your number. And also twobells.com. They built a new online store at leoroundtable.com. So if you want some cool gear like the mug I've got behind me, guys, check it out. Or the one the Chief's got. That is leoroundtable.com. In the upper right corner, you'll see where we have an online store. You can go in there and check out the cool gear. We don't make a dime from anything. The prices are low for that reason. We just want to get our gear out there. A shout out to Brian Burns for the Tampa Free Press at tampafe.com. Thanks for carrying our content. Also, Ray Dietrich with formerlawman.com. And finally, Travis Shates with lawofficer.com. Thanks to all those entities for helping make the show happen. And now, what in the world are we talking about today? When I've got these 2 heavy hitters on the show, I got to come up with some really deep topics. So we've got grab the popcorn. I love the same guy that writes these headlines for these news articles must be the same one that comes up with the operational verbiage for the White House. All these operational words they come up with. I'm still waiting for the one called Operation Glory Hole, but I haven't seen that one yet. But it's coming. But this one right here, it is at the Tampa Free Press. And actually, this first one, grab the popcorn. Trump executive privilege decision means that all info on Biden is coming out, and that's at redstate.com. And we have another one. Pennsylvania suspects in a New York City IED case are facing charges for suspected ISIS-inspired terrorism. Now, if you hear what the commander-in-chief of the department, the commissioner, said, and I don't believe that the mayor was in attendance at that particular one. She went off the rails on this. I was very impressed with her. And then we've got ICE raids, no problem. Minneapolis left its double eviction notice so illegal aliens can keep mooching. That's an interesting story. We've also got a Missouri trooper justified in the fatal shootout with a suspect after police chase. That just came out at the This Is Butter channel on Rumble. We got a 2023 video released of a shootout between a murder suspect and Pierce County deputies, and then a man accused of killing his daughter's alleged rapist. He actually won the Arkansas sheriff primary. Gotta love it. And K9 catches a career criminal when he tries to hide under the crawl space. That's a place you don't want to be, where you can't move when you get bit by K9. And then we haven't covered that. We've never been able to cover this pit maneuver. We got a police cruiser somehow, way, shape, or form ends up on a empty trailer being towed by a bad guy, and the cop now he's like on the trailer. He's taking a ride, and he's got to get pitted by a second patrol car just to be able to get off the trailer, and everybody crashes when the second cop car does the pit. So it's pretty amazing. So if you guys are ready, you ready to go in and start for the first main topic? I guess we got the thumbs up from Rich. All right. So this first one, TampaFreePress.com, Pennsylvania suspects in the New York IED case. They face charges for suspected ISIS-inspired terrorism. The charges are substantial. During a Monday press conference, New York City Mayor, Mamdani, initially he's attending this press conference with the NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch, and they announced the 18-year-old Emir Balat and 19-year-old Kayomi, and I'm probably butchering the names, but these guys are being charged not in state but in federal court following the discovery of IEDs, improvised explosive devices, near Gracie Mansion. So the commissioner confirmed that the case is being investigated as an act of ISIS-inspired terrorism. Federal sources described the ongoing probe as a terror investigation into the functional, and I say that they've examined them, functional IEDs and an additional suspicious device that was found over the weekend. Now, sources say that both these bad guys made pro-ISIS statements while in police custody, and the commissioner, was just spouting it off during a press conference, some of the stuff these guys said, which is pretty alarming. Investigators are currently scrutinizing the suspects, plural, their past travel to Turkey and the other international locations known as potential terrorist training grounds. They also said that one of them spent several months in Istanbul in mid-2025, and the other would travel to Turkey and Saudi Arabia in 2024. Now, the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force, they've expanded this investigation into the state of Pennsylvania, and they've already started executing search warrants at the homes of the bad guys. And during the searches, additional individuals were taken into custody for questioning, although no further arrests have been officially announced. An NYPD bomb squad previously sent the devices to the FBI's Quantico lab for analysis, and they confirmed that they were, even though they didn't go off, they were functional IEDs capable of causing some serious harm. And law enforcement sources told CBS News that the devices were consisted of sports drink bottles that were filled with explosive materials, and they were inside glass jars. They had nuts and bolts in them designed to fragment and to do some serious damage. And they allegedly contained TATP, which is an explosive powder, and M80. I'm assuming guys still know what M80s are, but these M80s, or I can't remember what the percentages of a stick of dynamite they are, but it's not just a firecracker. It's a huge, it'll blow your fingers off. They've got M80 type firework fuses. And the video from the weekend protest shows a guy yelling Allah Akbar, and he's jumping over a dude with a like a megaphone, and he's throwing, at least the first device, and it hit a barrier and extinguished himself near police officers, and then he retrieved a second device from the other bad guy, and he dropped it and ran away. And it also says that along with these two bad guys, there's a 21-year-old Ian McGinnis who was arrested for using pepper spray on counter protesters, while three others faced disorderly conduct charges. It says a third device found Sunday in a vehicle on East End Avenue. They had to do building evacuations and all kinds of stuff. So Commissioner Tisch said that she was limited in what she can say, but she said a lot. And it said the transition to federal court makes a significant escalation in this case. And let me just add that just listening to some of the stuff she said and then not seeing the mayor around, I suspect, and I see Rich nod his head, I haven't heard it or seen it yet, but I suspect, with what Mamdani's been saying, that maybe it was on purpose that he didn't attend that press conference where she was just highly agitated at the sentiment from these kinds of guys and what they were saying. Rich, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head when you mentioned this mayor. It's obvious why he wasn't there. He's spoken about this many times in the lead up to this and during his campaign. The guy is as pro radical Islamic fundamentalist as you can possibly get. He takes an anti American, highly anti police posture. The best thing that can happen here is that this case gets taken federally. Otherwise, what you're going to see is top cover provided by the communist mayor, who's highly sympathetic to these people. You won't see a prosecution, particularly in Manhattan, which is the borough that covers, what people refer to as New York City, by Alvin Bragg. And you're going to see the liberal judiciary isn't going to step up and do anything anyway. So at the most, these bomb builders, and that was a legitimate Iranian, ISIS-inspired bomb that was made, but these guys would have been treated just as if they had jumped over a turnstile and beat the city for the $2.50 for the subway. So this has to go federally. That device, TATP, just to give all the listeners some context here, is known as the mother of Satan. That particular compound goes back to the old days from 40 years ago, where they were using explosives that were not nitrogen based, because all the EOD and the bomb detection dogs back in the day, that's what they were hitting on. Now you're using a peroxide based explosive, which is much more intense than nitrogen based explosives. You can get a lot bigger bang for your buck with a little, with lesser explosive. The whole intention here was to kill as many people as possible, kill as many Americans as possible. And what's worse is, if you look at the background I've got today, you can clearly see the new World Financial Center. This is done within eyesight of where the Twin Towers stood. Yet you've got the mayor and the administration, allowing this type of thing to happen. This is a whole topic for a whole 2-hour show.
Well, Chief.
Yeah, I think Rich nailed it as far as the politics of it, and Mayor Zamboni and his sympathies. From a tactical law enforcement response security protocol, this is a real challenge. If they had enough sophistication to choose a remote detonation or time detonation, they could really do a lot of damage. And again, for the civilians out there, bombs don't typically, particularly homemade IED type bombs, they don't kill by concussion, they kill by fragmentation. So you're going to get dozens of puncture wounds from glass and nuts and bolts and nails, BBs, whatever they put in these devices. I don't know how much the average patrol officer in New York City gets in terms of training of bomb recognition, but I certainly, the average person that saw a ball of duct tape sitting there probably would not have thought, oh, this is an explosive device. And of course, it took a manual ignition, which was the weakness, and those tend to have higher failure rates than more sophisticated devices. And thank God both of them were duds, or both of the offenders were duds, or they might have been able to pull this off. But the proximity of these things to the crowd and the access that they had is really really concerning and really frightening. So lots of luck and some good work by NYPD.
Great words, perfect timing, Chief. Guys, it's time for first commercial break. Stick with us. We'll be right back. All right, guys, it's time to talk about our title sponsor, Galls at Galls.com. And as police officers, one thing we do really well, we love to buy gear. And when you throw the online mix into it, the choices are limitless. So I want to remind everybody about what really is most important here. It's about supporting the companies that actually support law enforcement. And I don't know of a company that does that better than Galls at Galls.com. Even on the banner behind me, you can see their motto. It is proud to serve those who serve, which of course they do in spectacular fashion. Not only that, they walk the talk by supporting dozens of focused organizations like this radio show. So when you're looking for gear, please support our title sponsor by going to Galls at Galls.com, and they're going to do you one better. For the loyal listeners of the show, they've got a radio code that'll get you 15% off your next order at Galls.com. It's Radio 15. Go to Galls.com today, type in Radio 15 in order to get 15% off of most purchases. They pretty much have everything but guns and ammo. The choices are limitless. And hey, they have gift cards. Hook up your family, friends, and loved ones with the new Galls gift card, Galls.com. All right, 2 minutes before we come back to the radio portion of the show. And we're off to a good start.
I was curious, Rich, about whether a bomb detection dog would have alerted on that particular type of device, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that would be obviously, as you know, the standard protocol for VIP site visit. So that was interesting.
Yeah, not quite sure. I guess it depends on whose dogs they were using and what this dog was particularly trained on. But I think he probably would have hit on it. The thing apparently was packed also with M80s, which is
Yeah,
I think
right.
one of the reasons for that is I think that's where the guy got the fuse, right? Because I'm just thinking back to my teenage years. M80 fuses took a while to burn down, as opposed to your firecracker fuse, which was just black powder, right?
There was no anthill safe from my pyrotechnics when I was a kid.
There you go.
But those M80s were serious, were they not? And
yeah, I think about a quarter stick. I think it was a quarter stick of dynamite, if I remember right.
Yep. And that would certainly wake up the neighborhood.
Yeah.
One of those, right?
Yeah.
That's scary stuff.
My big bully brother would make me dance with those things.
Make you. Oh man.
Because he'd light it with his hand,
I was never bold enough to do that. We would light that thing and take off running in every direction you possibly could.
Jeff Bryant, thanks for the well wishes. We got Arthur Johnson on as well. These guys are on Facebook. We got Sergeant George on looks like YouTube. Bruce C. Dwyer. Good afternoon. Thanks everybody for that's logging in from all over the country. We appreciate it. So, yep. Thank you guys. I'm going to pop over to. Oh, we got 3 seconds. Back to radio. Here we go. All right, guys, and welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip DeBlock, and I'm your host. And we're joined by, we've got Chief Joel Schultz, retired police chief. Sorry about the background, guys. And that's trying to do too many things at too many times. But we got Chief Joel Schultz, and we've got retired Special Agent in Charge Rich Staropoli from the Secret Service. So thanks for being back on the show, guys. And we just got done talking about our last topic, what's been going on in New York City, and the take from the mayor, which is completely different take from the police commissioner with NYPD. Guys, final words on this one. We got 2 open mics. So whoever wants to jump in here.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing about crowd control. People are critical of cops that are in their protective gear, the mask, the vest, the shields. But you can see how a hand-launched weapon can really do some damage. And when and it only takes one knucklehead in a peaceful crowd. So, if you see a water bottle being thrown at somebody and you're thinking, well, why doesn't the cop just jump out of the way? You don't know if there's bleach in that or urine or some toxic substance or some, chemical mixture that when shaken up will cause an explosion. So, and I didn't see anybody in any protective gear there. And a lot of times they stand down from this because the optics are bad. But the next time you see a cop in riot gear, understand that's no different than a firefighter in bunker gear. That's their protection.
Great analogy there. That's right. Unfortunately, in New York, the mayor has opted to disband these tactical response units that were all over the city that were being used incredibly effectively, right, for the last 25 years. Which explains why you didn't see this, right? The prevailing thought of the current administration is that cops showing up in protective riot gear, if you will, exacerbate the situation. So they're putting the onus on the cops for exacerbating the situation of the protesters, when it should be the other way around, right? But this is what you're starting to see more and more. And we talk about New York because, listen, what goes on in New York will affect what goes on not just in the tri-state area, but in the rest of the country. So if you're seeing it here in New York, you're going to start seeing these things more and more elsewhere.
Yeah, and that is scary. All right, gentlemen. Well, good coverage on this one. Let's move to our next main topic. We've got redstate.com. Grab the popcorn. Trump executive privilege decision means that all info on former President Biden is coming out. And we know what Trump went through during his 4 years off. But it says President Trump just made a big decision that will likely expose a lot of information that was not released about Joe Biden during his occupation of the Oval Office. It says that Trump has rejected Biden's claim of executive privilege to not turn over documents requested in various Senate probes, determining that it is, quote, not in the best interest of the United States, unquote. That sounds a little familiar, doesn't it? White House counsel David Warrington wrote Monday in a letter addressed to the National Archives and Records Administration, very important organization, the NARA, obtained by Fox News Digital, that Trump does not uphold the former president's assertion of privilege over records that are being sought by 4 congressional probes. 4. The letter directs the NARA to provide the materials to Congress. And this dispute centers around 2 things, really. Biden's health, covering that up, and the politically motivated probes in the Trump and his allies. And actually, in addition to that, the financial dealings with Biden's family, which we've all heard about that, and we've actually seen and heard some pretty convincing stuff. And Republicans are arguing, this goes to the very heart of Congress's constitutional authority to conduct oversight. And of course, how many years now have we been hearing the Dems scream about, about everything, coming into the light, so here we go. Whoever wants to start this one off, but I thought it was a pretty interesting topic. I see Rich making the move for the button. So go ahead, Rich.
Well, I think, look, part of the problem is, or the situation is, while it will unmask a lot of what went on during the administration of the Biden crime family, I have to ask, well, so what? If no one's going to do anything about it, then, okay, all the stuff comes to light. It'll be talked about on Fox and Newsmax for 20 minutes, and then it's going to just disappear again into oblivion. So if Trump just wants to get it all out there, or the White House wants to get it all out there, that's great. But ultimately, okay, now that it's out there, what are the repercussions? What are you going to do with this?
Yeah, I think you're right. It may be a tactic to stir some of the sentiment up to the top in preparation for the midterms, to kind of blast on the Dems a little bit. But the American public is pretty tired of all of this scraping and looking at and doing an autopsy on a president that was brain dead in the first year of his term. May not seem like it's valuable. We do need to let the future politicians know that the scabs will be picked, if that's going to be the pattern from here on out. And if there was some legitimately treasonous activity, it would be helpful to know that. But I think you're right in your analysis that as far as anybody being prosecuted or successfully really held politically accountable, I don't really, I agree with Rich. I don't see that there'll be much productivity about that. It's just so ironic that you had Congress voting overwhelmingly not to disclose the sexual misconduct settlements that taxpayers pay for regarding Congress members. Oh, we want Epstein. We want Biden, but no, we don't want anybody to talk about us. So it's and this kind of political intrigue probably goes back to John Adams. George Washington might have dodged it, but it's been around. That's no excuse for it to say, well, what happens. But it'll be interesting to see when this moves out of the news cycle.
Good point. Well, gentlemen, I've got an update story involving ICE and raids in Minneapolis. They all kind of go together. But I've got 40 seconds before our next commercial break, so I'm going to whet the appetite for this one real quick. RVMnews.com, ICE raids with a question mark. No problem. Minneapolis left us a double eviction notice, so that eviction notice time, really, so that illegal aliens can keep mooching. And yeah, we got the Minneapolis City Council stepping into the news. They're voting on March the 5th, and they voted to approve a temporary ordinance that would double the amount of time landlords have to give their tenants before filing an eviction. Glad I'm not a landlord in Minneapolis right now. Stay tuned, guys. This is coming up next. We'll be right back. All right. right, guys, time to talk about Compliant Technologies at complianttechnologies.com. And they're committed to providing non-lethal solutions that help officers gain the upper hand safely and rapidly in a humane, low-optics manner, utilizing their CD3, which stands for Conductive Distraction and De-escalation Device Technology. Now, their flagship product, we all know by now, is called the Glove. It's helped officers not only tens of thousands of times, but they're now up to 250,000 deployments with 0 injuries. You heard that correctly. I said no injuries. The Glove has actually achieved non-lethal status in an arena that predominantly can only offer less lethal results. And when it comes to weapons retention, transitioning to a sidearm or conductive energy weapon, the Glove at CompliantTechnologies.com, they virtually eliminated weapons confusion. So stay ahead of the game with Compliant Technologies and the revolutionary CD3 that hundreds of agencies have already turned to nationwide. And friends, take it from me, when it comes to safety, this is one of the most hands-on, common sense approaches that's ever come along. Go to CompliantTechnologies.com today and tell them that Chip sent you. All right, 4 minutes, guys, before we come back to the radio portion of the show. And I don't know if you guys have been to it yet. I don't think I mentioned it before the show, but of course, I've, I was looking at resurrecting Leo Affairs, my old website, and that is up and running now. So we're still tweaking a couple things, but getting the word out there so people can go there and start registering and start getting some commentary going. I've already got about maybe 10 message boards on there, including one from Minneapolis and St. Paul, Portland, where we've had those ICE/Border Patrol shootings and stuff. And we've even, our 2 heaviest message boards back then that gave us just millions and millions of hits every month. Those were in Miami Police and Broward County, and those are up and running. So we're just waiting for people to start finding out about it, trying to get the word out and getting them to start posting. So it's leoaffairs.ch. And it used to be the .com, but the CH means that it's hosted in Switzerland for your protection, and that's a privacy thing. So we're not grabbing IP addresses, not on the server side and not on the software side. So that means that, because I had to deal with a lot of agencies that wanted the IP addresses and the identifying information for posters, because the chief or the sheriff didn't like it, and they would try the back doors and serve the server company with subpoenas. And yeah, that's not going to go too well for them this time, because we're in Switzerland. So it's
well, that makes sense, because that's where all your banking is done, right?
yeah, you're right. Yeah. So but we have moderators, and we're going to have a lot of moderators like we did before. So we're going to keep it nice and clean. As long as we find out about a post that violates the rules, the terms of use, we will remove it. We're going to do the right thing. We don't have to have moderators, but it's the right thing to do. And then Rich might be familiar with the Section 230 of the Communications Act, which says that we as content providers cannot be held liable for what other people write. So as long as we don't write it, we can't be held liable. We could get compelled to reveal someone's identity if we had it. But of course, in this case, we don't have the IP addresses anymore, and so we can't be compelled to do that. But we are going to be willing to delete the messages and stuff. And anyhow, so that's it's up in play. leoaffairs.ch. And
Rich, maybe at your meeting you can talk around and see if there's some people that can break through that Swiss connection there.
I don't like to speak to the Swiss. They don't do much for me.
Hey, but they can keep their mouth shut and their legs crossed, though.
Yeah, I'm down on the Swiss. I'm down on the Norwegians and the Canadians after the Olympics.
The Canadians,
Yeah.
the Canadians, the Canadian hockey players were not happy, were they?
Oh, but the Canadian curlers were.
Well,
Right.
that was.
Listen, if I cheated my way through my curling competition, why not?
I'm a fan of curling now. Let me tell you, the light bulb went off, and I was watching the strategy involved and learning watching a little bit more than I ever have, and I have a new appreciation for it now. So yeah.
Well, the strategy is just keep pushing the rock until it tells you to stop pushing the rock, right?
Well, it was pretty. I was pretty impressed. I couldn't find. I was in shock that I was having so much enjoyment watching stupid curling.
It was on like 22 hours a day.
I couldn't get away from it. You're right. It was like, it was like learning to like soccer. I married a Colombian, so I don't have a choice. I have to watch soccer, either like it or act like I like it. I kind of felt the same way with curling, but I actually started to like curling. So yeah, go figure.
No, I get you.
And I really like the U.S. women's soccer. We've got a team that I enjoy watching the women's soccer more than most of the men's teams, at least the U.S. women's anyhow. But And it's not just because, it's not because of the way they look. It's, it's the plan. I know what you guys are thinking. All right. 5 seconds saved by the bell. Here we go. Back to radio. All right, guys, welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip the Block, and I'm your host. We are joined by Dr. Joel Schultz, retired police chief and former special agent in charge from the Secret Service, Rich Darapoli. And, I know that when we left off, I think we were talking about the executive privilege and that Donald Trump has turned it down for Joe Biden and the fallout from that. Guys, are we any more commentary on that, or do you ready to move on to the next topic, or where we at on that? You're ready to move on? All right, guys. So moving along, and you know what? I think I know what happened here. I think that we had just maybe barely touched on the eviction notice. That's right. And that's what happens. You guys get me involved in like a engaging conversation on the commercial break. And this time we had 4 minutes and you guys got me off my game and I forgot about the eviction notice that we have in Minneapolis. So that's where we left off. And that's right. I had made a statement saying that I was glad I was not a property owner renting to tenants in Minneapolis, because this is what's going on now. And this is assertive action by the Minneapolis the council. So RVMnews.com. ICE raids, no problem. Minneapolis left this double eviction notice so that illegal aliens could keep mooching off the economy. So Minneapolis City Council voted on March the 5th to approve the temporary ordinance that would double the amount of time that landlords have to give tenants before they file for an eviction. And it extends pre-eviction notice requirements from 30 days to 60 days. So they're going from 1 month to 2 months. Now imagine being an owner of a building and you have tenants that you're having to rent it out. And imagine that you're in an eviction process, and let's just assume that they're not paying you money. So now you're going from notice from 1 month to 2 months. So and that means the clock just starts at the 2 months. So let's say you have to go 2 months without getting pay, and you have to give them all this extra notice. And then you have to start the wheels turning for the actual eviction process. So you're talking months without income. Meanwhile, they could be like just trashing your place. The measure titled Pause Evictions, Save Lives Ordinance passed the council by 7-5 vote. Council member Jamison Whiting abstained from the vote. And, every vote counted on this one. If enacted, the ordinance would require landlords to provide tenants with a 60-day notice before they file for an eviction case in court, and instead of the current 30-day. Supporters of the measure said the proposal was necessary because some renters, and we're not talking about landlords, we're talking about renters, continue to face financial hardship following Operation Metro Surge, which community groups said caused sudden income loss and created fear among immigrant residents in the area. And so I'm trying to wrap my head around this, and maybe you guys can explain it to me. So they're getting rid of illegals, and apparently that's created a financial hardship. I guess people are scared. What do they do? Not showing up to work because they think that ICE is going to show up and grab them because they're illegal. I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around that. Opponents of the ordinance argued that extending the notice period would create financial challenges for property owners, and affordable housing providers. Councilmember Leanna Palmisano said that the policy could disrupt the housing market, in the city. And then it kind of goes on to talk about Project for Pride in Living. It's a nonprofit. They provide affordable housing. They urge council members to reconsider proposal. And this is something I didn't really think about. Adding another 30 days only pushes families deeper in the debt. In other words, they're not making money and they're going in the debt. They still owe the stuff on the books. So you're not making anyone's financial situation any better. Or if they're living in a house or renting in a house that they can't afford, allowing them to stay there only puts them, further down that rabbit hole. And tenant advocates said that the additional time could help renters secure financial assistance or catch up on payments before facing eviction. So what they're saying is that they can borrow more money from you, the taxpayer. Eric Hogg, who's the executive director for Homeline, a statewide tenant hotline that provides assistance to renters, said the organization has experienced a surge in calls related to financial hardship. So they're looking for a lifeline, someone to float them where they can borrow money, and I'm assuming probably not pay back. Commentary on this, gentlemen. This is how Minnesota responds to, and of course, I haven't even touched on the Minnesota fraud that we already know about. Chief Schultz, start us off with this one.
Well, A, I said nothing to do with this. This is just another opportunity for political theater. And B, I'm not sure that anything any government has done to interfere with capitalism in housing has ever done anything but mess up the housing market. And we're supposedly in a time of housing shortage. And I was really impressed with the rational thinking folks that weighed in on this and said, no, this is going to push people further into debt. If you have ever loaned money to a person that doesn't have money or can't handle money, that does them no favors, right?
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, Chip, who wants to be a landlord now? This is really going to potentially screw with the free market housing market, and it's just a bad idea. It really has nothing to do with, whether we're letting illegals have a favored position or not. That's such a side issue. It's just meddling that's unnecessary and destructive in my view.
Well, Rich,
have to agree with that. I think the right phrase there is political theater, right? This has absolutely nothing to do with impeding ICE, or it's certainly not going to slow down ICE's ability to remove illegal aliens. If anything, it's impeding the ability of somebody that owns a building or a number of buildings to go out and do what they bought it for in the first place, apartment or their home, right? But again, you've got things that are trying to be passed by people that have never had jobs before, have no idea of anything that has to do with fiscal responsibility. And what you just explained about lending to people who simply weren't or are never going to be in a position to pay back money to begin with, whether intentionally or otherwise, these people have no idea, no concept of how any of this works, and it leads to even bigger problems. I mean, things are so bad now with landlord-tenant disputes that most police departments won't even touch it, right? Especially in the bigger cities, it's pushed off to these little-known sheriff's departments that handle it, because the cops just don't have the time to get involved in this type of thing. This is just another mess, percolating in Minnesota.
And I can't wait to see how Mondami's meddling in real estate is going to affect the New York City market.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. But there again, here's a guy who put somebody in charge of housing, who's never owned a house, has never lived in New York City, has always lived on the dole of mom and dad, has never signed a lease for anything, and now that's who's running the city affairs in a city like New York. So nothing good is going to come of this.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
Right.
I used to be a landlord. I only had one property, but I tell you, I'm so glad I got from underneath it. And I told my financial guy, I said, look, I really want, no, you need to hold on to it. I said, no, you don't understand. I said, I don't, as you get older, not that I don't have a lot of response, I have a lot going on, but I just needed to lighten the load. And I just didn't like getting those phone calls about the garbage disposal being broken, and I go there and they've got like a paper clip or a fork stuck in it, or just, or just having the place destroyed, or having tenants, you do your best diligence, to try to vet these people. It's not good enough. And then you're right. If you ever have to evict anybody, I've had the place. I don't want to say what kind of people were there, because I'll get slammed for it. But let's just say that there was a bunch of people living in there, and they were letting other people live in there too. And when I went in, they didn't like to run the AC because they didn't want to pay for it. They had one light bulb screwed in a socket with like 4 empty sockets because they wanted to save on electricity. And there was like, mildew, and I mean there was like damage. I had to replace the countertops. I had to replace the countertops, all the appliances. I'm talking about microwave, refrigerator, stove, dishwasher. I mean, just some horrid conditions. If the floor wasn't tile, I would have had to replace that too. Yeah, it was just, it's so glad to get out from underneath that. I can only imagine it being in a place like Minneapolis, where it's really unfair to landlords. That's just a nightmare.
And how do landlords make up losses? They have to raise the rent rates, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or kind of slyly restrict who gets into their housing. And the big issue, as Trump says, is affordability, and this is going to raise rental housing prices in Minneapolis. And I'm not an economist, and I'm not a slumlord or landlord, but just the math does not make sense.
Yeah. When that last incident I told you about, it took me a year to financially recover from that loss. It took me a year of getting rent and the condo was paid off, but it took me a year to recover from that. That's how far it set me back with all the countertops and appliances, all that stuff. It was just a nightmare, So yeah. All right. Well, if you guys are ready for a story with a video component, we got a doozy. We're within a minute of taking our next break, but this one here, Rumble.com, our favorite law enforcement video channel called This Is Better. We have a Missouri trooper justified in the fatal shootout with a suspect after police chase. I don't know that we've ever seen one quite like this before, and I'm going to go through as much of it as I can before the commercial break. But in a series of events that started back on September the 5th of 2024, Princeton, Texas, a Missouri State Highway Patrol, Delisha Evans, was a native in the area, was shot and killed by her former boyfriend, Ryan Phillips, at their Texas home. And then the boyfriend takes off and runs from police. And there's a heck of a shootout. So we're going to cover that in just 1 second when we come back. You don't want to miss this commercial break. We'll be right back. All right, guys, it's time to talk about GunLearn at gunlearn.com. And as law enforcement officers, we deal with guns and we deal with ammo every day, but it's what we don't know about them that gets us into trouble. Injuries, civil lawsuits, accidental discharges, misidentifications, lost prosecutions, and disciplinary issues. But gunlearn.com, they have your back. You can quickly become extremely firearm knowledgeable by simply learning 14 training modules from the convenience of your home or your office, or by attending a live seminar at gunlearn.com. You can also become a safe, accurate, and competent certified firearm specialist like our very own Captain Brett Bartlett and also attorney Ken Afianco. Now, the course has had huge success in raising the bar of firearm knowledge, and GunLearn has been a trusted source since way back in 2011 by gun manufacturers, federal agencies, forensic organizations, and even police departments nationwide. Now, the founder, Daniel Kelly, has got a deal for you. If you have your own agency, if you're chief or sheriff, you can host a seminar for absolutely no cost. It's an amazing opportunity. Go to gunlearn.com to get more.com. And 2 minutes before we come back to the radio portion of the show. All right. And moving along. Everybody having a good time so far? Am I going too fast for anybody? Do I need to slow it down? Get off the energy drink? We're good. Okay.
I had to, on the last break, I had to look at that Missouri story because some reason I missed it last night when I was looking through. I was curious, does it say where in Missouri that happened? I don't remember seeing that.
So you're talking about the one that we just started talking about?
Yeah.
It's Afton.
Okay. That's St. Louis.
Okay, yeah. AFFTON, Afton, Missouri.
Yeah.
All right. So you can see my shirt that I'm wearing here. It says leoaffairs.com, but it's one of my Leo Affairs shirts. So with a little badge on it and stuff. So
very nice.
Tell you, this is gonna be something big, I think, Rich. But leoaffairs.ch for people that are just coming into the show. It's a new website allowing cops to talk with anonymity about things going on within the agency without the fear of repercussion. And we have gone to great lengths to create an environment where that can happen. And so, yeah, we had Leo Affairs, 1.0, and so this is like the 2.0 version, but with all the things we should have been able to do with 1.0. So I won't say we found out where the mistakes were at, because we did some great things with the 1.0, but this will allow us to do even more on the 2.0 version, because I want feds to be comfortable with being able to talk about what's going on, if there's stuff going on within the agency, without the fear of repercussion. So that's why we're doing it. So
yeah, let it roll. Let's see what happens.
That's it. Exactly. All right, guys, 5 seconds. Back to radio. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip DeBlock, and I'm your host. We're joined by former Secret Service SAC Rich Staropoli, and we've got Dr. Joel Schultz, retired police chief. We left off talking about a Missouri trooper justified in the fatal shootout with a suspect, but it happened after the police chase. Wild video on this one. And look, if anybody wants to watch the video on this, tomorrow morning, the very next day at 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, producer will put up a version of this live show that has everything embedded into it, including the video. So that's the way to watch it. And we'll also have links to all the topics and all the original articles and videos as well. So the series of events started September the 5th, 2024. So we're talking roughly about a year and a half ago in Princeton, Texas. And according to Missouri State Highway Patrol, Delisha Evans, who is a St. Louis native, was shot and killed by her former boyfriend named Ryan Phillips. And this is in Texas in their home. Now, the next day, Texas authorities, they issued a critical missing person alert. So now we got Missouri troopers. They get information that Phillips had taken Evans against her will and set fire to their home and was believed to be fleeing towards St. Louis in a red Range Rover. At the time, law enforcement, they were unaware that Evans had already been killed. So they're thinking he's got the woman with him. So now they have a pursuit in St. Louis County when Trooper Trey Gadke spots the vehicle on Interstate 44, and he's being backed up by another trooper, Justin Hedrick. So Trooper Gadke, he tries to do a traffic stop. He gets out, walks up to the passenger side, dude takes off. And so now we got a police pursuit. So it's a high-speed chase, and it ends when our bad guy, that's driving the red Range Rover, he tries to take a corner. He does it a little bit too fast. He ends up hitting the curb, and the vehicle flips in the roadway. And now the vehicle is on its side, and our bad guy's crawling to the top of the car, opens up I believe it was the passenger door, and he gets out. Now we've got the troopers who are outside their vehicles and are shouting, "Hey, put your hands up, put your hands up." And our bad guy, Phillips, fails to comply. And they say, "Hey, put your hands in the air." And then they say, "Drop it." Now, surprisingly, it says that he actually opened fire on the troopers first, but they returned fire and they killed him. Neither of the troopers was injured in the shootout. And it says that a guy named Travis Allen Mitchell is currently in custody, charged with helping Phillips murder Evans and then tampering, with her body, which I'm sure means moving it, hiding it, and that kind of stuff. So I also noted that the shootout starts at the 59 seconds into this video. Now, the video is only a minute and a half long, but there's a mag change by one of the troopers, and he's using cover and stuff. Some of the things you don't normally see. You see them leave cover, normally go out in the middle of the field while they're engaging the bad guy in a shootout. But I did not see any rifles, any duty rifles from either of the troopers, which would have been nice to have had, but I didn't see any. Coverage on this, guys. Commentary. Whoever wants to start it off. Chief, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, that's kind of close to my home territory. I like to make fun of troopers that they're shagging taillights all day and don't really know anything about police work. But I love my troopers in Missouri. They're poster boys and girls for badassery and law enforcement. So and usually they're working remotely without much backup. And this, I think the ordinary person would not expect an armed confrontation when you're walking up on a rollover crash at high speed. And here this guy pops up like a whack-a-mole figure and starts shooting at you. And I don't know where the troopers keep their long guns, whether it's in a rack or like this or in the trunk. So that may have made the trooper decide I don't have time to reach for my long gun, because it was a pretty long shot for a handgun, and so he made it right on target. Good work on taking this guy out, particularly with limited information. That the person they were concerned about is not in the vehicle, and do I have an innocent person that might inhibit my decision to rain lead down on somebody. But good work. I'm sure they like to say we always get our man, and they did.
Pretty wild shootout, Rich, huh?
I got to tell you, I think it's a great video example of the old analogy or the old illustration. Nothing ever seems to happen to bad guys right out of the gate. I mean, that rollover was something you'd see at a NASCAR race. Yet the guy just pops up out of the car. The trooper unloads, 2 magazines into the car, and the guy doesn't get hit. He keeps coming. Great illustration of, you've got to expect the unexpected anytime you're walking up to a car. Anyone else, had it been me in that car, I'd probably be airlifted to the nearest emergency room. Yet this guy is ready to pop out of the car like it's just another day. Unbelievable.
So let me just point out, we're getting some flack from John Falax on Facebook here, and this has been popping up lately. And he sends a message saying, asking if we do any debates, and he's talking about live debates, and he's talking about the people that are on the show and stuff. And I got contacted by somebody yesterday on I think it was on LinkedIn, asking me the same thing. Civilian, no one with any law enforcement background. And they wanted to say, hey, do you ever allow non-law enforcement to get on the show and to give their perspective? And when I put the show together over 10 years ago, I thought about all that. And number one, we started off being a 1 day a week show, 1 hour, and then it ended up being a 2-hour show. Now we're a daily show. So the quick answer is no. There's other shows that do a lot of things. You don't have other shows that have the level of experts that we have on the show. And I want people to watch the show because they're getting good information and they're getting that we're spot on. I don't care whether it's a grunt level officer talking or whether it's a police chief or a sheriff. I want them to be able to take as gold or as gospel anything that comes out of our mouths. I don't want them listening to a civilian. I've had cops that were on the show that there were problems with some advice and things are coming out of their mouths, and I had to let them go. So no, it's not designed. So John Felix or Falax, no, it's not designed to have people that we're going to debate that are civilians that don't know what they're talking about. This is a show designed for people that want to learn and find out from the experts, what's going on. It might be a Jerry Springer entertainment kind of a thing, what you're suggesting, not what I'm going for on the show, because we're going to lose credibility. And, we've got like Rich Darapoli's on Fox News, Newsmax, CNN, and, Chief Joel Schultz, he writes for Police One, Lexapol, and these guys are household names with military and police. That's a lot bigger advantage than having people that need to get educated on every show. And that's not what we're looking for. So I know we got a couple of the mics. I'm kind of curious what you guys think about that.
If you had 2 or 3 doctors on a show talking about medicine, you would hope that most of the time those experts would agree about a treatment or a diagnosis because they have the same science background and knowledge background. Occasionally they might disagree, this med over that med. But when you have experts in law enforcement, as you have a stellar cast every day, Chip, and they tend to agree about an officer's justification or an officer's mistake, it's because we know what we're talking about. And we don't need somebody who is an armchair quarterback just guessing what they would have done if they'd been there. So, I appreciate your format, and you do respond to readers and listeners' comments on the chat. So I think it's a good balance.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
Well, I think the other thing, Chip, is you'd lose the ability to talk about the variety of topics that you've had, because you would spend the full hour, talking about one thing while you're having to explain everything that's going on there, right? So you've got to look at who your intended target audience is, and this just isn't that format for that.
Right, exactly. And that's why we don't take phone-ins, because the same thing. And then you talk about the same thing and over again. The guy didn't watch the show yesterday, so he asked the same questions, and you're just you're constantly having to repeat yourself. Most of the people that watch the show, they get it, and they know. I had one guy that was a police chief in Texas, and I know I'm getting ready to go over here. I'm watching the clock, though. Don't worry. I had a guy in Texas, and he wanted to come on the show. And he said all the right things. I had another guy that was a bailiff in a courthouse that knew the right things to say too. So the bailiff, I had to tell, look, you don't have the credentials. People, you may know to say the right things because you watch a show, but people aren't going to listen to what you have to say because you don't have the pedigree. When people look you up, they're not going to assume you really know. You don't have the background to really give the credibility for people to listen to what you have to say and take the advice. And for the chief, he had no experience. He had been a chief for a few years. Had no police experience. He was appointed by a mayor with no police experience to become a chief of a police department in Texas, and was upset because I wouldn't let him be a panelist on the show, and he ghosted me and stuff. So that's kind of the stuff we have to deal with. But have to make the hard decisions in order to make the show what it is. This was my vision of the show, which I'm happy with. But hey, Rich Staropoli, former SAC with Secret Service, Chief Joel Schultz, thank you guys so much for being on the show. Stick with us. Galls.com, CompliantTechnologies.com, Gunler.com, on Medicare.life, Safer Recruiting, and TwoBells.com. We'll see you guys back tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern. And we're going to, boy, I said that fast, didn't I? Without that energy drink, boy, I wouldn't have been able to do that. We're going to keep going for another minute and a half to keep the satellite company happy. But guys, any final words or Rich, if you got a book coming out, I'd love to hear about it. Chief, if you got any specials going on in any of your stuff, we'd love to hear about it.
I got nothing other than listen, with everything that's going on and this Iranian threat getting bigger and bigger, especially in the greatest city in the world. For all you cops that are responding to these suspicious packages, take great care as you approach one of these packages. Don't be the guy that walks up to it, picks it up, puts it in the trunk of the car, or kicks it around on the ground.
Oh, it's going to happen. It's probably going to happen, unfortunately. I hope not. But good advice, guys. It's not if, it's when. Keep your head on a swivel. Be anticipating something going on, even if you're not in in New York or in a smaller, even Tampa. We've got CENTCOM here, so we're on the radar. But even if you're in Polk County or Plant City or some little podunk little agency, don't think that people don't think that you would be a good target because maybe you're not expecting it. So keep your head on a swivel everywhere you go and carry more good guys with guns. Anything I left out, guys?
Well, I haven't written anything new because I've been busy sitting by the phone waiting for Fox News to call me.
If only we knew somebody on Fox News.
Well, I was on Newsmax once, and apparently I did such a great job. They're holding me in reserve for some special thing because I haven't gotten a call from them again lately either.
Well, if Randy Sutton didn't have Nancy Guthrie locked away in his basement, maybe he wouldn't be on Fox every 20 minutes, and they could put the rest of us on.
So anyhow, in closing, John Felix, I'm sorry that I'm not going to send you a link to be on the show to debate us. I'm actually doing you a favor. People have stopped listening to you. This is from him decades ago. Your cognitive is astounding. So-called experts have only one view. And I appeal to authority, or I guess an appeal to authority as uneducated as you can get. So yeah, I don't even know why I'm giving this guy the time of day, but anyhow, we are, the show's right where we want it to be. And we are live radio with over 1 million followers on stream as well. And of course, we're also streaming to 5 Facebook pages, to YouTube and Vimeo, and gosh, I forget more, rumble.com. So thanks everybody watching the stream. We appreciate it. All the people that are supporters of the show, we appreciate it. The people that get it, we appreciate you as well. The people that are willing to learn things from a police perspective, and we appreciate that. And stay tuned, John, when you start your own show, because you've got obviously an audience that you want to tap into. Let me know. Maybe I'll help you promote it, because none of the people here would be interested in that. But good luck with that. Anyhow, all of our streamers have a wonderful and a safe week. We'll look for you guys back tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern. And MVS, everybody on Rumble, and Bill BC, thanks, guys. And we will see you guys tomorrow. And I'm going to